Mr. Amitabh Kant.
Thank you, Mahesh, for that introduction. I've known Mahesh for a very, very long time, and I've known him when he was publisher of Outlook, and we were doing the Incredible India campaign at that point of time. So it's been more than about 15, 16 years. Two things have stood out. One is that the Incredible India initiative has, still fresh in people's mind. But more than that, Mahesh has, over the period of time, broken new grounds, new territories, got into new areas of growth. He's moved from publishing Outlook to education, higher education, 360 degree. And I think this is an area where the maximum amount of disruption is required in India. So he's got in at the right time, right place, and I think he's breaking barriers, he's bringing information, he's doing all kind of awesome things which are required in the higher education field. So firstly, my compliments to 360 degree and to Mahesh in particular for this unique initiative. I'm particularly delighted to be here because my personal view is that if there is one sector in which revolutionary changes are required, it is really the higher education sector. This is a sector which is crying for reforms. We've come a long way from the time, at a time of our independence. We had we've rapidly grown in size and scale, and it's the kind of growth we've seen over a period of time. So if you look at the time of independence, there were just 25 universities, just about 700 colleges. Today, Mahesh's this 100th book which he's published, if you read that in his 100 pages, he says that there are 872 universities in India. If you go to the MHRD website, actually that shows only 843. From the time he published 872, actually my office tells me it's gone up to 878 universities in India. So, just look at the dynamism with which it's growing. There are over about 40,000 colleges, there are about 12,000 standalone institutions. So we've grown hugely. Hugely we've grown since independence. The GER ratio, the gross enrollment ratio at the time of independence was just 0.4. 0.4 at the time of independence. It's almost 25% now. So the country has attained substantial progress in this sector. But I think we need to benchmark ourselves, and if you benchmark ourselves against China, for instance, which was at the same level as that of India, we were exactly the same level early 60s. But today, China's GR ratio is 42.7, almost 43%. And you look at China, many Chinese universities are actually ranked in the world top 100, And I don't see any reason why with a more liberal, with a more, greater amount of disruption, why we should not have the same growth trajectory at all. Now we have achieved, it's not that we have not achieved advances, we've achieved advances in the sector of higher education, and there have been a huge amount of advances both by government and the private sector. Great amount of work by the private sector as well. Many government institutions like IIT, IIMs, Indian Institute of Science, they've set benchmarks of quality, and they've been functioning for decades with great quality standards. And these have been supplemented by the initiatives of the private sector, and great initiative by the private sector. Amity, Mr. Chauhan is sitting here, great work done by them. Many other private sector universities which have done remarkable work in India. And we greatly appreciate the quality of learning, quality of infrastructure which many of them have created. But I think the challenge which remains to be addressed is to take these institutions to the level of eminence that is recognized worldwide. And worldwide, India must be recognized as a center for great learning, higher education learning. And I think for this, private initiatives like Career 360 play a very, very important and a very significant role. They help in increasing, firstly, the citizen awareness, which is critical. They bring in awareness about the higher education institutions which country has, their quality, they bring in greater level of transparency and accountability, there's better information flow. And I think once institutions like 360 degree bring everything into the knowledge of the public, then institutions have to maintain their reputation in the market, and that is very, very important. So there are many, many transformational changing in the offing, I think, which should take India to the next higher level, and many of you are involved in higher education sector, and all of you who've invested in this sector. Our objective is really to take India way ahead and put our institutions into the top world ranking institutions. We are looking at, for instance, providing enhanced autonomy, complete autonomy to top performing institutions. This should kickstart innovation in courses. This should actually push program delivery and help our higher institutions to keep pace with the rapidly changing, in technology, rapidly changing environment. We've also deliberated about allowing many accreditation bodies of global standards to operate within a notified regulatory framework, but have not just one, but many regulatory framework. And I believe this exercise should really benefit tremendously from the rich repository on higher education institutions which Career 360 has built up over a period of time. Now, my view is that we need great reforms in the higher education sector, and we need to push them very, very rapidly. There are fascinating numbers. It shows the growth and the need for good education. We've been reaching new peaks every year. We have today about 300 million students enrolled in about 1.52 million schools. We have about 8.6 million teachers at the school level. We have 868 universities. We have almost 41,000 colleges. And from a student's perspective, if ever there was a time for more information on choices, options to do with the higher education, it is now. When I joined Delhi University, that option was not available, but today it is available. Today even if I'm a topper, today there's Ashoka University available, there's B.L. Munjal University available, Amity University available, there's St. Stephen's College available. So there's a huge amount of new centers of excellence which have come up, spread all over, in close proximity to Delhi. Forget other areas, other states, everywhere, Gujarat, Maharashtra, everywhere, Hyderabad, Telangana, everywhere. So, to my mind, this is an era when data is scattered. India's higher education is humongous, it's massive. 878 universities, growing, 40,000 colleges, 2.8 crore registered students, gross enrollment ratio of 25. But this is the present scenario, but we still have a long way to go to reach that gross enrollment ratio of 43. And, just look at that in the context of a very young demography which India has. India is passing through a window of demographic transition, which rarely happens in history. 72% of our population is below the age of 32. So we need to scrap many of our yesterday's system. We need to bring radical changes. We need to open up, we need to liberalize, we need to change the mindset of many of our institutions. And I think several things which the government is attempting is in the right direction. One is to link UGC and AICTE together, create this higher education regulatory authority, HERA, which would address the regulatory silos and conflicts which exist between various regulatory framework. And they need to be, my view is that the regulatory framework needs to be totally shaken up so that we can have a very integrated education approach to higher education. The government, the Prime Minister personally is committed to creating world-class universities. He's focused on these world-class universities, 10 from the private sector and 10 from the government, so that these universities can then leapfrog and get into the next level. Our objective is also to provide greater autonomy to our colleges. And if many colleges can become universities, they should aim for that. That's our objective. We are focusing very strongly on skill, and that is the next big thing. World over, as corporations move from credentials to demonstrable skills, the National Skill Qualification Framework is the step in that direction. We are focusing on manufacturing, and therefore skilling, vocational education, all that is critical. And therefore, in the present context, I personally think that our higher education sector is over-regulated, it's over-governed, and I think there are various challenges on breaking this down. We are working towards that. In fact, we've constituted a committee where higher education and all of us, UGC and Niti Aayog, is driving that, where we are working together to create a regulatory framework which is very easy, which is very simple, and you will see results of this coming out very soon. I also feel that there are a huge number of conflicting judgments in the field of education. We need to examine all of them and go back to the apex court and get a clarity on this. And to my mind, saying that higher education is a not-for-profit sector is not a correct approach. If you want investment on a large scale, we need good educational institutions. There's nothing wrong in saying, unless and until there's rampant overcharging, we should allow, if you allow profits to be made, people will reinvest. Look at Stanford, look at Harvard, look at Oxford, all of them make profit, but they reinvest, they create better infrastructure, there's nothing wrong. And why should our students, Indian students, in such large numbers, and that's our biggest foreign exchange outgo, why should they go abroad? They go to all third-class universities abroad. I mean, I've been to Australia, to New Zealand, to America, to UK, all our students are going abroad, highest exchange of foreign exchange outgo. Why shouldn't we create our own Harvard and Oxford here in India, our own brands? And that's critical, and that can only happen if we allow the freedom and flexibility and the freedom to create profits and reinvest in the field of education. And I'm absolutely clear in my mind that this over-regulation needs to be totally scrapped, and therefore there has to be complete appreciation that there have to be new technologies. We have to push for distance learning, and this business of saying that if I'm in a particular city I can only do distance learning in that city is all nonsense. It's all outdated. There are no geographical boundaries in distance learning. The technology recognizes no geographical boundaries, and therefore there has to be a complete appreciation of new technologies, of learning and assessment. There has to be a complete change of mindset. We all need to become facilitators rather than control agents. And from Niti Aayog, I can assure you that we are seized of the challenges. We also recognize the massive opportunities. We are trying very hard to remove these bottlenecks, and we'll work in partnership with all of you to take this forward. We'll be delighted to benefit from the discussion that you've had, and we'll try and take this forward. I'm extremely pleased to be here. I'll be very happy if Mahesh feeds me with what has transpired here, so that your inputs can become a very major component on what as a nation we can do in the field of higher learning. I'm extremely pleased to be here in launching this issue. 100th issue of any magazine is a huge landmark. It's a great landmark for a very niche publication which deals with education. And this is an area to get in and create world-class excellence is very important. And I'm really glad, and I congratulate Mahesh and his team again for breaking great boundaries. And this is important. And what we are trying to do is to really push for accreditation, have many bodies, push for ranking outside government, have rankings not by government but by many outside bodies, so that people can take a discernible decision on where to go and study, and try and see that this regulation is removed, this mindset that you can't make money and you can't invest, all this must go. And you will see much of this action happening in these areas. So I take this opportunity to congratulate Mahesh for having dared, for having survived, and for having succeeded to bring out its 100th issue. It's not easy to survive in a new area of growth. It's not easy to survive till the 100th issue, and to have survived so magnificently is a unique achievement. My congratulations, and I wish you all the best, and I wish you a great future, and I'm sure we'll all join again here when you launch your 200th and later your 300th issue as well. So all the best and a great future.